so that the astronauts can come home safely.
Right.
Something very interesting about it, we saw how lightweight it is.
Right.
It's 94% air. Well, before we put them on the ship, we waterproof them, because once we get to the pad, it gets rained on, and the rain can get inside the tile. This is just the tile material, but without any coating, so you can see what happens. Here's the dry one, here's the wet one. We can pick up so much weight we could launch, but what will happen is, now water expands on acid and actually gains time. So I need their assistance in showing them
All right, you guys got to show
they
the
like. So I'm going to hold the tile, and you're going to just squeeze that bottom and watch what happens. You don't have to get close, but just squeeze hard. Yeah, look at that. See all that water? Just
soaks it up.
actually start tipping the bottom. So you have to keep squeezing, tipping, tipping, tipping. It doesn't care whether you go upside down or what. It's still drawing all that.
Soaks it all in.
All that water in.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
And it didn't even feel wet, did it?
How about that? That's pretty good.
But the tile, we have to be very careful around. The tile is very fragile. The coating is about the thickness of an eggshell, and it damages easier than an eggshell. You can just hear me crunch it around. Okay? But to keep the
It's like styrofoam.
similar, yes, but it's actually made from the same cylinder. But to keep the orbiter safer and safer, we actually remove some of the tiles and put stronger on, so we're constantly working to make this vehicle safer. Where I can break this one,
So this one's a little tougher.
it's a lot tougher. Yeah. No, this one actually is twice as heavy. That one's 9 pounds.
So you guys like
This is
balancing between
Yes,
weight.
we add a little weight, we've made a safer vehicle for our astronauts and the vehicle a lot safer. So we're constantly doing everything we can do to keep this
Fantastic.
When you go upstairs, you're going to see a material that's called flexible insulation blanket. So you see this cloth, people cannot believe we actually fly a quote at 17,500 miles an hour, and that is telling we're
So
very
where does this go?
This goes on the side walls, on the vertical tail, parts of the crew body, and parts of the wing. That is the outside, and here's something else that's the outside. This is on the payload bay doors, the very top of the crew body, where the astronauts are off in the wing. This is called Frizzy. It's a felt. This is a Nomex felt. And this protects areas that don't get over 700 degrees. Yes, ma'am.
Like duct tape.
Different types of blankets. We have some.
Where's the duct tape go? That's what I mean.
Well, we don't put them on the outside. They have it on the inside.
Fantastic.
Any questions about tiles? We have any There's this one right here, yeah. The very dark ones on the edge of our landing gear door, those are the strong ones. Now, this vehicle was flown 32 times. That's what they look like when they were brand new. That tile has never flown. This next flight
Those
will
are
be in.
replacement types.
Yeah, but all these others.
It's like your bathroom.
And flown 32 times. We don't cost you since NASA owns the material, but right now we're supposed to be making them right across the street. So our
Thanks for keeping our astronauts cool. Appreciate you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, glad you could get here to see this. This is an amazing vehicle.
The landing gear, look how tough this is.
Everything else over there, so whenever the vehicle gets control, takes the ground, 200 feet above the ground, they command the vehicle to drop the landing gear. But they can't raise it after the drop. Do it just before they touch it. All of these things.
So just for Millian's benefit, this is a tag when you guys take off to
Yeah, because the one on the pad, yeah, the whole orbiter is attached to orange tank that you see, and then two solid rocket motors.
so there are two on either side.
attaches with 3 points, and one of them is this bolt right here. You look around the
That big
corner.
red bolt?
No, the red are caps. This little tiny bolt in the middle.
That's it?
That's it.
It's gotta be a pretty strong bolt.
2 nuts back there. This is extremely strong bolt, but that's all. Only 3 points hold that right in the
That's just right in the
center.
middle.
That's what holds it together to the big external tank.
So what happens is, big external tanks provide the thrust.
They provide the fuel for 3
The lift off.
engines, 8.5 minutes, and the tank is empty. This bolt explodes, we'll never see this piece again.
So when the craft disengages from the bolt, what height are you? 300 miles. How fast does it take to 8.5 minutes? Think about that. In 8 minutes, you're up.
But you're already past the other side of Africa. You're flying at 5 miles per second.
5 miles a second. That's pretty fast.
And this is called Orbiter Vehicle 104. Big Bang.
This is all in terms of about expansions. We had this conversation. Well, there are some experiments up there. This takes entropy.
I heard there's water. I heard there's water.
Let me tell you, they were excited to get out of school. So, you know, the staff came in this morning. They did see. They were excited about the alarm, but the benefit is to get out of school.
Our kids seem to mention the same thing.
Maybe they can go another day.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it looks like Monday. You guys will hopefully. I was just mentioning to Mark, I did not realize you guys have to have good weather in Spain and France as well as here. Which explains why, you know, a lot of times you guys, everything has to converge just right.
We've actually scrubbed twice for bad weather in Europe. I was thinking, today, this morning, we didn't get good on that.
Yeah, no, it was.
But 1 of 3 sites is all we need, so I think we probably would.
That's the amazing thing about the space shuttle is that it can land elsewhere.
Yeah, we looked at the tile.
Those tiles are heavy, aren't they? Heavy water.
We sprayed that water.
I'll tell you that.
And it sucks it right up. And we went up by the hat, so that signed the wall over there.
I didn't know what I was looking at.
Well, what I didn't realize too is Deanna was explaining how, she was talking a lot about the exercises you guys need to do up there. And 2 things I didn't realize. One is that on the spacewalk, I guess the seats are so heavy. I mean, you guys well, but I guess the resistance and moving around apparently, you got to be.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's why he's our lead.
The guy in the best shape.
Most of this is bulk.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, see, the Russian suit is 1.5 times. There's more pressure inside. I did that 6 times. Yeah, the Russian suit's tougher.
The other thing I didn't realize was that the air has to be mechanically circulated. You have these times to do inspection.
That's amazing.
Now, after launch, how long are you guys going to get?
Just
2 weeks. Now, how much of that is orbit? How much of that is you guys going to the space station?
So, yeah, we'll dock with the space station after about a day.
Who was coughing over there, by the way? Stay away from my astronauts. Don't think I didn't hear that. Was that you, no?
No, sir.
Okay, I want to make sure. Yeah, but so I'm sorry. So you guys going to be?
Yes, we'll be going to Mach 1.5. Sunrise, sunset.
That's pretty spectacular.
That's why it's hard to fight there. How many dock space? For 16-day flight, we will have like 12. 4 spacewalks. 248
Who's that? Who's going to be walking?
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry.
And Greg, his first time to go out. So we're,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, we're excited.
It's going to be your first walk. huh?
Spacewalk,
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, 3 of us are doing spacewalks.
We have 4. I don't get to do a spacewalk. Right? We have 4 spacewalks for 3 people to do them. So we kind of split that. Mike and I will do 3 of them, and Greg will do 2 of them together.
We were just talking about the physical recovery, of space. That's the thing we don't.
Yeah, we don't talk about it enough. There's a lot of science, to try and maintain our health while we're up there. And that's
But
a
it's
big part of the science.
really neat. Well, we've learned some of the things that we've learned. I also served with Greg. In fact, when you called us right after you got elected, you called up the space station. We were
He and I were the ones up there during the vote.
Yes.
Matt told me that.
Did you guys vote for space?
Yeah, we
They
voted
did.
for space.
And we encourage other people.
We won't ask them who they voted for, but just want you to know.
But we've learned so much about how to take care of older people, because some of the what we get is our bones become brittle, things like that, osteoporosis, and things like that. It has direct application for life here on Earth.
Well, this is one of the things, as we are shaping massive budget, massive mission, I know that one of the things we want to do is research and energy into this whole issue of if we want to go to Mars, for example, we're going to have to figure out the science behind it. So, well, we couldn't be more excited. How much you guys are doing. Let's be proud of you. Well,
Especially the girls.
I tell you what, we're gonna, you know, we're gonna miss this one. You never know, though. There's gonna be one more chance we may be able to get down here. I've got a nice plane, so.
Well, we have all the launches marked on my calendar, which sets it so that we're aware, we know it's coming up, so it's a priority. We've got the last one.
Last one's on the end of June, which may be a nice time to
End of June, we're supposed to be doing an international trip.
We gotta take it.
Just a couple days, sure.
Not even a couple days, man. What are you talking about? 2 hours. It's a 2-hour flight. We can make it. So. Good. Okay. We got
Now,
time.
are the kids?
The kids here, but you know, I think Doc didn't want to.
Yeah, but the doctor, you know,
Yeah, our kids would love to meet your kids.
We can do.
Yeah, that would be
I'm
great.
just saying. That's the only
We
reason
would
they're not
love to
here.
meet them, but maybe next time.
Next time. Yeah,
It's a little bit down. We'll get it back.
Pick up the That's it.
That's fun.
Actually, the truth is, they're not one of them. They maintain themselves. I don't have to talk about that.
so they just took a day of school for that.
They did, and they're very happy about it.
All right.
Yeah. So, but they were inspired. I mean, it was fascinating to see them. When they, at the events. I mean, you could really see that they were just so we're proud. The other thing that was interesting that the kids were really struck by was Deanna was describing how the planet looks and the fact that you can see runoff from streams and deforestation and things like that. I mean, kids, this generation is a lot more aware of environmental issues than I think people
The first flight up in 2012, last one in 08, I could see the difference in a lot about this. It just looks, physically, looks different.
Right.
See how the trees
Exactly. And so that really, you know, that struck me. But part of the reason I think they're more aware is because of space.
Yeah, the big picture.
Got a big picture view. You know, and it reminds people, you know, I just, right before we came here, we were in Tuscaloosa. I was going to this poor neighborhood, and I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it was just, I mean, block after block is just, it's level. But the mayor there talked about how, you know, he doesn't understand until something like that happens, how petty all of our various arguments are. We're learning. I know you guys experience that.
Why are you fighting down there, kids? Stop fighting.
There are no borders in the Middle East.
Yeah, there's no big black line between the irrigation. Yeah.
That's interesting, because of the stark
National
differences in
policy
terms of
on
that.
irrigation.
And what Israel was able to do.
Right. That's fascinating. Wow. Yeah. Now, it's not true that you guys can actually see the Great Wall. I hear that's the rumor.
So I was up there for a year, and I
Because
looked
I'm
for
wondering.
it. Well, you can see the pyramids of Egypt.
You can't see the
You
pyramids.
can see the pyramids of Egypt. You can see them without a big without telescope or binoculars or anything. You can see the pyramids. But the reason why you can't see the Great Wall of China, there's only one guy that's claimed to have had a picture with it in it, is because they use natural materials like
So it
nearby.
just blends into
It-
the-
it-
it blends into the mountains.
exactly. There's no
And it
contrast.
follows the hills anyway.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly.
Whereas the pyramids are right in the middle of the desert.
You see Cairo, it's all silver, and you see the desert, and you see the little dots that are pyramids.
You can see football stadiums.
Yeah, you can see airports, football stadiums. I even took a picture of my dad's house, and his house.
His vision is really good, sir, really good.
The Spanish flight will be after our flight. Towards the end of our flight, will be the American.
Most time in space. This guy, he's a young guy. He's still got his hair.
He's done 2 flights in 6 months.
This is my first time on the space shuttle, and Mark has been a great commander at showing myself and Ricky Bobby here. I mean, Roberto. Ricky Bobby. And this is our first time. We both flew with the Russians twice, and now we've gone through the American program with the space shuttle. It's really impressive.
It's gonna be wonderful.
So do you all get on each other's nerves at any point?
Not yet, we tried. We tried.
You know, we've had almost 2 years of bonding as a team, so, and we went on this trip together, or we just had each other.
Mark's like that older brother that won't let us fight.
The nicknames are getting out of control.
Although the last time some astronauts were in my office, the short guy was getting teased. It was Gary. It was Gary.
Oh, yeah.
You guys were giving Gary a really hard time. I felt terrible for him.
Here for this long.
Has he?
Yeah, he works for SpaceX.
Does he?
Well, he was at my reception last night.
Oh, was he?
These two are about
Was, I hope he was at mine. I flew with him in space.
There's no one guy.
I only had one other space plane, was with Garrett.
Yeah, me too.
He was like one of the only guys who was like near 40. The rest of us were like near 50.
So how do your families handle all of this? Do they get nervous, or are they excited?
They must be
Or
pretty
what is
stressed.
their
They do.
response?
They're really,
Talk about it.
but you know, they're, I mean, 'cause our kids grow up with the space program, and we go over and show them the mock-ups all the time, and they're just really excited about what we do, and then they give us the support. And it's kind of like that, I imagine your family too, is that, you know, without the support of your family, it's hard to do great
We
things.
got mom-in-laws here with us. We brought her down. Absolutely. So,
Sir, we want
come
to
on.
give you some time to meet with.
Let's get a good picture here with all of us. Come on.
Green Gringo over here.
Yeah, you can. There you go. All right.